first thing, which was a cool Wowhead interview we had with Ian Hazacostas.
We did. We interviewed Watcher Dev last week. It was very fun, very exciting. And we took a bunch of questions from the Wowhead comment section, from our Twitters and Facebooks, and compiled them all together, and we asked him all sorts of questions. I'm still bummed that he didn't give us any information about the Pepe costumes. How about you?
I know. I thought I was bummed that he didn't really tell us about Pepe, but I thought it was interesting how he said that the transmog storage system could be coming soon.
Yeah.
But faster than soon TM.
Yeah, because I had said, well, I'm glad to know it's at least on the back burner, and he was like, no. It's not on the back burner. It is actively being worked on. And I was like, oh.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I was excited to know that because, I mean, bag space right now is, like, kind of an issue. Like, my void storage is full. My bank is completely full. Everything is full. I'm out of space. Like, I can't even go look for more transmog if I want to because at this point I have to put it in my backpack.
Yeah, the salvage yard is really bad. That causes problems when I open boxes when I have the space. It's like, oh, you opened 2 boxes, now I don't have bag space.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to hear about that because that will be an enormous solution to that issue. The only other thing I would have loved to touch on that we didn't talk about was all of the items in game that are not vanity, that can't be transmog, but are really cool, like the spring Easter bunny ears and the halo that you get for Midsummer, and
they should be cosmetic.
Vile Fumigator's mask is probably the coolest thing in the game, and you can't you don't really ever see anyone use those things, and it would give more incentive to the holiday events. In retrospect, I wish we would have asked about that. But we did ask about some other things, like the difficulty difference between normal and heroic Hellfire Citadel. We touched on why all of the gear looks the same this patch. We talked about a lot of stuff. So if
like the professions, like jewel crafting has this new creative system, but enchanting doesn't really have a lot of love.
Yeah.
And, why is that happening? So we talked about Tanan and toys and try to get more specifics on how items are determined to be toys that aren't the dartboard that was mentioned in the Reddit AMA. So we try to touch on a lot of things that people were curious about in 6.2 that very first week, including bugs like why the mailbox wasn't working.
Have they fixed it?
It was in recent notes that they were fixing it, so...
Okay, because I know they fixed, like, there was no return button for a little while at the same time, and I know they fixed that, but I'm not sure that they've fully fixed the bug.
Right. Yeah.
So that was the big one, but they're working on it. We did talk about a couple things that people were really interested in, like the gold mission changes to garrisons, and we got sort of a vague answer, but the TLDR version is don't be afraid to do your gold missions on your alts. It doesn't affect your main. That's not the way it works. It sounded to me like you just have X number that you are guaranteed to get per week, and then above that, that's where the nerf took place. So, I don't know. I got a 4,000 gold mission the other day, so I'm not complaining too much. You could still stack your treasure hunters. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little about the salvage yard nerf?
Yeah. So, basically, there's like too many salvage boxes, but also people were upset that it got nerfed. So we were like, are you happy with these changes? Do you still want to change things? And basically they said that they're still looking at statistics, how the salvage yard plays out, and that they wanted to reduce all the hassle of people just keeping around hundreds of unopened salvage boxes in their bags because they're such a pain to deal with. So that's why they tried to reduce all the great items that you would be getting. And they did feel that they did need to nerf it because it felt like it was a mandatory garrison building, and they're trying to make garrisons feel like, not as mandatory, and that you should have choice, and not that one of your 3 slots is clogged up by this salvage yard.
Yeah, and just to touch on that a little bit too, I think that's a lot of the reason why the Ogre Waystation rush order is not being nerfed. Because the Ogre Waystation, Spirit Lodge, depending if you're Horde or Alliance, it used to be kind of a very, like, fun building, but there wasn't a lot of purpose to it. You could do the same things without having it. So they added a work order now that allows you to get rush orders, and they work on the shipyard. So it's right now very advantageous to have that, but not so much so that you should destroy a building to have a Spirit Lodge. But it's definitely nice for people who had a Spirit Lodge previously and are now really seeing...
Yeah. I was kind of surprised by that, and I was like, hey, like, doesn't this mean you could just plow through everything super fast? And they're like, well, no, because you're limited on oil, so that that will sort of, like, gate you into not doing every single mission instantly.
He said that basically if you're doing it in that way, that you're going to run out of resources, you're going to run out of oil, and sucks to be you.
Yep,
so if you guys are interested in watching that full interview, I'll go ahead and if you're watching this on YouTube, I will link it in the information below. But right now I'm going to flip it over to Perk to talk a little bit about PvP Season 17.
Cool. So the PvP season began this past Tuesday on July 1st, and the Wild Gladiator sets are now available, which are recolors of the Tier 18 PvE sets. So normal and heroic have blue and red colors, and the mythic sets have sort of green fel recolors for elite. And you can check out all the transmog sets in our database. And you can buy these new Wild Gladiator items, vendors that are right outside Ashran in Stormshield and Warspear, as well as in Ashran directly. And I know a lot of people are asking if the Primal Gladiator looks are still available. Yes, they are. They are available now for Honor, and also available in Stormshield and Warspear. And it's really funny because the NPCs have this little dialogue option where they're like, are you sure you want to buy this? Like, the NPC over there has much better gear. So
yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, I like that.
That's really cute.
And other rewards you can get is if you go ahead with the Radial Battlegrounds route and you get your Vicious Saddle, there are more things you can turn it into, specifically the Vicious Mechanostrider and Kodo mounts. They look super cool. You know, they're like the usual faction mounts with extra PvP doodads on them.
Yeah.
And we have some technical eye level changes with PvP gear. Basically, all gear now scales up to eye level 690. The Wild Aspirant, which is like the lowest tier PvP gear, is now 700 in PvP. Wild Combatant, which is the Honor gear, is 715. The Wild Gladiator gear, which is Conquest, is 730. And any PvE gear over item level 715 will be scaled down to item level 715, so PvE gear is not OP in PvP.
Yeah.
And if this all sounds really confusing, we added a scale eye level button on Wowhead item search results, and you can select that button, go down to the PvP option, and see a list of gear with what their eye levels would be in PvP.
Yeah, it's really nice. And that works for time walking and challenge modes, so that's a useful tool no matter what you're doing. And, of course, we still have a couple days left of the Midsummer Festival. There are 2 new toys, 1 new pet, and a title, plus all of the old rewards we were talking about a little earlier. There's, like, a halo you can get, and these shoulders that, like, beam light everywhere. So if you're into like RP type transmog, it might be something interesting that you might be into. And of course, fireworks over Azeroth are coming up, and Perk and I are celebrating the holiday by dressing extremely American today. My shirt actually has a wolf and an American flag on it. It doesn't
so
really
patriotic.
get more patriotic than that. And of course, there's fireworks over Azeroth, which is always a really fun event. There's hourly evenings fireworks. There's a special festive NPC in major cities that have set up tables with mugs and kegs, and if you slash dance with them, they will give them to you, and they'll celebrate good times, and you'll get plus 10 to all stats. The Goblin Guards in Booty Bay are all asleep. And the holiday fireworks vendors in capital cities will sell fireworks for you to use, and there are exclusive accessories like the Red Sparkler, which can only be bought on the 4th of July in-game. So I think it's really cute that they do stuff like that. It's kind of unfortunate for people who, like, Canada Day just went by, and I didn't see them giving out anything Canadian, but servers are based in California. What can you do?
I think that Europe gets a day in September as well. I'm not exactly sure, but I remember the Red Sparkler pages are like, oh, you know, it's the July 4th in the US, but there's this other special day you can get it in Europe. So
oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So that's something nice.
And in addition to the fireworks over Azeroth, this is the very first Apexis bonus weekend. That's fun, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of fun because of a bug. So
Elaborate.
So how it works is that during this time period, the Sign of Apexis buff means you get more crystals dropped by mobs in Draenor that already drop Apexis crystals, but there is this special quest you can pick up outside your town hall called The Time to Strike, which is to complete 5 Apexis objectives, and then you would get 5,000 Apexis crystals, 1,500 oil, and 100 garrison resources, except it's bugged right now. When you pick it up, it finishes instantly. So you can get some free resources that way.
Oops. Oops.
But how it should work is that, you know, you can do like your Tanan daily, you can do your, like, you know,
Order of the
table,
Awakened.
your mission, you know, orders that you can buy, like the scouting missives.
Yeah.
So you can do a bunch of stuff. So it's not super hard if they fix it and you're watching the show and you're like, how do I do this now?
Yeah, if you were just doing your dailies in Tanan, you would get it in like 2 days. So pretty easy to get, and it's always fun because a lot of people, like, I'm personally saving up for the mount. I've seen a couple people with it already.
I know. That's pretty good.
I got my Apexis Garrison Monument. I know no one cares, but I was really excited about it. I got it like on, I don't know, I want to say like the 27th or the 26th. I was really pumped about it. And
is that your first monument?
It is.
Nice.
Shame. But I'll get two more in finishing the legendary quest, because there's one I'll get at the same time, and then I'll also have the one for the ring. So I'm going to put all of my pedestals to different monuments at that point. My goal right now is to get the pet battle one before the end of the expansion. So
that one is super cute with a little, like,
wolf.
Yeah, that is so cute.
It's super, super cute. But back to the Apexis bonus. There are guides on Wowhead for all the things in 6.0 and 6.2 that you can do to get Apexis crystals to complete that objective. And then, of course, there's a lot of things you can buy and get with Apexis as well. And Wowhead also has guides for all of the things you can buy, the 6.0 and the 6.2 ones. I think, what did you say? There were 6 pets, including a new one for 6.2.
Yeah, so just like recapping the 6.2 stuff, the Blazing Firehawk is a new pet. There's the new Corrupted Dreadwing mount for lots and lots of Apexis crystals.
So many.
There are the Baleful tokens you can get for 5,000 crystals, or the weapon for 10,000, and they create 650 or 675 gear. You can upgrade them with an item that's 20,000 Apexis.
Yeah, and not to interrupt, but that actually, the item that you can buy to upgrade your Baleful gear is account-wide. So you can buy it on your main, and then if you get, like, one of the shipyard Baleful pieces and you send it to an alt, you can just give your alt a piece of 695 gear, which is super nice. Continue.
So you can also turn them in for Seal of Inevitable Fate, and they made the amounts lower in 6.2 than in 6.0, so that might be something you want to spend Spare Apexis on.
Yeah.
There's the really cool Rookmar's Sacred Memory, which is an Arakoa disguise toy for 50,000 Apexis crystals, and there's also a follower you can get from Order of the Awakened, Solar Priest Vakes, who comes at level 100, eye level 645 gear, and the unique Apexis attenuation ability to give you more Apexis from missions that have Apexis.
Yeah, I totally got him. I got all of the new 6.2 followers from the reputations. Nice. Yeah, I just hit Revered, someday. I just hit Revered this morning, and I bought, like, the unsinkable blueprint and the toy and all of that stuff. So I should be Revered with Order of the Awakened in the next couple days, because I got those at about the same rate. So
you got your Frostwolf disguise?
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
Yeah, and I got a couple ship blueprints and stuff, and I don't know, I think that Nan dailies have been pretty fun, and I like the fact that you have to, like, go kill rares and get treasures, and it's not just, I don't know, go out and get 10 bears or something like Ian was saying. Although I will say my biggest gripe is that there aren't more repeatable treasures. Because being the idiot that I am, as soon as I got the treasure maps, I was like, I'm going to get all the treasures. And I
you're like, oh, I need this for the daily.
I wish I hadn't done this. Like, I gave a heads up to my husband. I'm like, do not get all the treasures at once. You will have regrets. So he made better choices than I did. But moving on from all that, the Darkmoon Fair is coming up July 5th to July 12th. There are a bunch of new things coming with it, including mine and Perk's most anticipated thing of all time, Blorp. Blorp the
Blorp
fish.
Is amazing.
Blorp is, if you remember, we've showed him a few times on the show, he's just the derpiest fish of all the time, He's the derpiest fish of all time. He does not function as a battle pet. All he really does is, like, swim into your face and swim to the ground, and
his flavor text is really like, this fish does not pay attention to you.
So good. Then there is the translucent shell, which is very reminiscent of Ghost Crawler, and there's Hog's studded collar, which comes from the Whack-A-Knoll achievement. And you get, like, a mini Hogger who was data mined, oh my goodness, like back on,
like a year ago.
Yeah, like August of last year.
He was the original 10th anniversary reward.
Yeah.
And they just kept, like, repurposing him for all sorts of things.
I'm going to be honest, I'm really glad he didn't end up being the 10th anniversary reward, because as someone who's Horde, Hogger means very little to me.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good point.
You know, like, I'm sure for Alliance that's, like, this big great thing, but I actually have never really played an Alliance. Like, I have a couple alts here and there, but nobody I've ever played seriously, so I'm glad they didn't do that, because they would have really needed to do something for Horde as well, because that was very one-sided. So but now there are getting back to the Darkmoon Fair, there are a total of 19 pets currently that you can get from the Darkmoon Fair, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's a sizable amount. And there's also, like, a lot of toys as well. So, you know, it's not just, like, some tiny little event. It's, like, it has a sizable amount. It's more than all the other holidays.
If you're a collector, it's definitely worth doing the Darkmoon Fair. There's mounts, too. There's, like, 4 or 5 mounts you can get, 19 pets, a bunch of toys. And they're good toys, too. Like, the wings are so cool. The blazing wings are, like, one of my favorite toys.
I like the Ring of Broken Promises, the Corrupted Blood Elf. That one is super cool. And that whole quest line and the NPC associated with that is some Dark Souls reference, so more bonus points there for game references.
I still don't have the Darkmoon Rabbit, and I think it's the funniest thing, and I really want it, but I never want to pay auction house prices for it. Anyways, back to the Darkmoon Fair. Again, there are 3 new cooking recipes coming with the Darkmoon Fair. The Darkmoon Fancy Feast, which is the fancy Darkmoon Feast. You can tell I have cats. I would call it the Darkmoon Fancy Feast. But it turns you into... Now, do you always turn into a worgen, or do you just get the worgen costume with the hat?
You just get the costume, and it's random if you get the tuxedo with the top hat or the dress with the cute little hat on the side. So
it's like
keep eating the feast.
Yeah, it's like Gilnane. It's very steampunky and proper and adorable. There's also the lemon herb fillet and the sugar-crusted fish feast. Now, what did the lemon herb fillet and the sugar-crusted feast do? Are they just the low B level buffs?
They give you versatility, and they scale up. So, like, one's like a solo food, one serves more people, and then the feast serves lots of people. So, you know, it's nice how it's like, oh, this restores 10% of your health every second, because it's not, oh, this restores 20 50 health, and you're like, why do I have this?
Yeah, so, that's nice. That's nice. There's also a new toy coming in the Darkmoon Fair in this week, the 5th. It's called the Seafarer's Slide Whistle, and it makes a whistly noise. There are sound files for that on Wowhead. There is a new heirloom, which is the returning champion from the Deathmatch Pavilion. It is a ring?
It's a trinket. But it's very difficult to get because you have to have completed the achievement for the Deathmatch Pavilion, which means you have to have looted the actual trinket 12 times.
Wow.
So you have to be winning the Darkmoon Deathmatch a lot of times before you get this.
Wow, that's serious.
That's intense.
I mean, people keep saying there's no PvP content. That was a joke. Don't have my head on a post, please. There's also some new potions coming in the Darkmoon Fair. The Darkmoon Firewater and the Darkmoon Dagger Maw Fish. The Darkmoon Firewater makes you grow, gives you something. Can't remember what.
It helps you gather professions faster.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then the Darkmoon Adventurer's Guide will let you loot items from Warlords of Draenor content, which then you can turn in for tickets. So I think you need to get, like, the ears, the bloodied ears or whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the things. The Adventurer's Guide was also good because, like, back in MoP, if you killed certain end dungeon bosses, you would get an item, like Soothsayer's Runes for 15 tickets, and that wasn't working with current content, which didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
So, like, all those books were super expensive on the auction house because only low-Bs were getting these.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, you can get, like, something like 90 tickets or something per month if you turn in all the books, which can help you then get all the pets and all those cool things faster.
So that's an update then, is more than anything. So that happened, and of course, we have Hellfire Citadel, the new raid, which is deceptively challenging. My guild's working on it on normal. We cleared, I wasn't there last night, but they cleared up to, who's the big red demon lady?
Tyrant Valari?
Yeah, they cleared up to Tyrant Valari. We haven't downed her yet, so that's what's going on. You want to talk a little about Hellfire Citadel?
Yeah, so Hellfire Citadel... So, Hellbreach LFR Wing is now open, and that includes Hellfire Assault, Iron Reaver, and Comrock. And you need item level 650 to queue up, which shouldn't be too bad if you get some gear from your garrison missions, and also those Baleful tokens, which are conveniently level 650. And the loot from Assault and Reaver is item level 675 with chance to be Warforged and all that good stuff, and the loot from Comrock is 685, and he drops LFR tier helms. These have 2-piece and 4-piece set bonuses, but they are different and not as interesting as the set bonuses from normal, heroic, and mythic. And the next wing, Halls of Blood, opens on July 14th, and you'll have 3 more bosses to kill then. And We have a guide up, we have detailed strategy guides, but if you don't want that, we also have the summary with tips that Blizzard provides if you just want to know what is the scariest ability in LFR and how do I move away from it. But if you want to know more about it, we have screenshots of everything harmful in our guides. So, also besides that, we have Hellfire Citadel Mythic, which opened, and the world first race is on. And all of our strategy guides have Mythic summaries and pictures from PTR testing. Our guide writer, Dayani, attended all the Mythic testing, took pictures of everything, tried to write up basic strategies so people going in there have an idea of what to expect. But something that we're really excited to announce is that Method is partnering with Wowhead again for detailed written strategy and video guides in the style of their High Mall and Blackrock Foundry guides for all of the Mythic bosses right after they finish clearing the instance. So we're really excited about that because they kill everything super quickly and
because they're good at the game.
Yeah, yeah, so we get the in-depth strategy guides from the people that know these bosses the best. And
sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Method.
Yeah. So go Method, get world first. Last I checked, I think they were at like 9 or 10. I'm sure chat will correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And then we have to talk about this, although I'm going to be honest, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to be a guy and do it. So Mamie Twink interviewed Corey Stockton this week.
Yep.
And we got a little interesting tidbit of information, which do not freak out, okay? And I'll tell you why afterwards. But Perk, tell them what they said.
Okay. It's currently planned that Hellfire Citadel is the last raid for Warlords of Draenor, and they summarized it as, is currently planned, and that's the way we look at it, the wrap-up. It's hard to beat someone like Archimonde for a boss, as players know. He's a pretty amazing guy to fight. It's clear to players who have played the storyline, they saw Tanan Jungle at the start of their experience, and now they're wrapping around to it again, so we see that as the pinnacle of where players are getting to in the expansion. Alright, what are your thoughts?
Okay, I have a lot of feelings about this. Number one, why in the world did they tell Polygon like 2 weeks ago that 6.2 wasn't the final content patch, and then turn around and tell Mamie Twink that it is? Like, that seems very, like, inconsistent.
Yeah.
Number two, part of me feels like maybe this is like an M. Night Shyamalan, they want to plot twist us by, like, really building this up. So, like, I guess maybe that's what I want to believe. Maybe it's not that I do believe that, but I would like to believe that, because even Ian Hazacostas just said in the Q&A, a week and a half ago?
Yeah,
that 6.1 wasn't a real content patch. Like, he outwardly said, we messed up, there was no content in 6.1, right. We're sorry, oops, okay? Which was really impressive. You and I were both really, impressed that was said. And then not a week later, Mumper goes to a different fan site and says, oh no, you guys got patch 6.1 and 6.2 and now it's over. It seems like that leaves a lot of time to do one raid. Because if generally an expansion would be announced at BlizzCon, and even if an expansion was announced at BlizzCon and beta opened the next day, which would be highly unlikely that it wouldn't have gotten leaked by then, that would mean that the expansion wasn't coming until June or July. And if they're saying no raid until next expansion, that would leave us at a year of Warlords of Draenor, which in the Polygon interview, they outwardly said a year was too long for one raid. So it's just like, it's directly inconsistent. So I don't know how to take it, and I wish that if they were going to make these really bold statements, that it would be done in a Blizzard blog, so that there was no, oh, well, this person said this to this person, and this person said that to this other person. It's this, like, really big game of kind of like he said, and I have a lot of feelings, okay?
Yeah, my thoughts is that when I wrote the headline for that blog, I threw in the word planned in there because that's what they said. And it's not like, this is the last raid, the end. It's, this is the last raid that we have planned. But later in the interview, they talked about how stuff can be kind of fluid, like Farallon isn't in this expansion, but oh look, Tolbarad was planned during Wrath, but it ended up in Cataclysm. We've seen that Hallion didn't seem expected in Wrath, or Sunwell for Burning Crusade, but those things happened. And later in the interview, Corey Stockton was saying that they want to gauge what's going on with players and to see if they need to make additional content if they seem, if people seem like there's a raid going on, but they seem bored otherwise. So
okay,
maybe that's something.
All right. Well, all right. And I know you're just repeating his words. And I guess to play devil's advocate, how on earth could they say, we want to know what players think, pay $60 for an expansion that's going to last 6 months of content, and then you don't get any new content until the next expansion? Like, how could they say that with a straight face? Like, people are already, like, I mean, you and I see a lot of feedback from players.
Yeah.
And like every expansion, and I'm a big proponent of this, is that you have to remember, everybody hates everything when it's current content. It's true.
Right.
I made a video about how much I wouldn't miss Wrath of the Lich King, and I will boldly put my foot in my mouth and say that, like, that was my favorite expansion, like, full of crap. Like, I made this whole video about all the things I wouldn't miss and what was so stupid about it, and, like, bull. I enjoyed that expansion a lot. So, like, I do like to keep that in mind, that, like, everything is, it's like grass is greener on the other side type situation. But in the same sense, how can you say a year was too long and then 2 weeks later have a lead game designer say, oh, well, we're planning it to be a year? What?
Yeah, the 6.1 wording it felt kind of unfortunate because, yes, if 6.1 was a big patch and 6.2 was a big patch, then sure, I could deal with 2 meaty content patches for an expansion if that meant the next expansion would go faster. But 6.1 was not really a meaty patch unless, I don't know.
I guess if you lumped the fact that Blackrock Foundry was...
I suppose.
If Blackrock Foundry had been in 6.1, there could have been an argument for it. So I'll give them that. But there's been, I mean, and I see a lot of people, like, complaining about PvP. So PvP is something I do, like, want to talk about just a little bit. Other than Ashran, there hasn't been a new BG. There hasn't... Like, there's been very little for players who enjoy PvP, and Ashran is a PvE-oriented PvP, and they gated all the PvP gear behind Ashran, so it forces players to do a BG whether they like it or not, which is, that's not fun for some people. I mean, I don't have a personal opinion on that, but I know that that's something I've seen a lot of, and I think that's a fair complaint, that they don't like to do this one specific thing, and they have to. And I mean, I'm pretty, it's pretty well known that I'm a Blizzard fangirl. In very few instances will I say Blizzard is wrong. And I don't think that in this case Blizzard is necessarily wrong. I just think the information we're getting is very disorganized. And it's not even consistent, so I can't get mad about this because I don't even know if it's true because it directly conflicts with what a different lead game designer said a week and a half ago.
Yeah, like, we held off with asking those sorts of blunt, are we getting more content? Because we felt that we just wanted to follow up on the past Q&A and ask questions that players were giving us.
I didn't think they would answer it anyways. Like, I would have... because I would think that those would be things that would be saved for Blizzard announcements. I mean, they've got... Even if they wanted to do something like at Comic-Con or whatever, like, those... I would think those types of announcements would be Blizzard announcements, not... interview. And generally interviews, the point of them is to kind of clarify on things that players don't understand from Q&As or from other announcements, or maybe there's a big patch and players have questions about the patch. Like, that wasn't a 6.2, that was a what's the future of World of Warcraft, and they set, and it's what's so bizarre to me though is that, like I said, just 2 weeks ago Polygon was told this is not the end, we have so much more story to tell. That's a quote. We have so much more story to tell. I mean, they had said a few times, well, it's not 2 patches, it's 2 tiers, and in Burning Crusade we had a lot of half tier type things going on, so like that was my assumption, is that there would be another raid that was like a half tier, or maybe something like Hallion or Eye of Eternity, that even if there wasn't a huge, there would still be some sort of stepping stone before the next expansion. And I know that they said they wanted expansions to be shorter, to a year and a half, which would still line up about right if we had an expansion coming out in June, but that's still a year in one raid.
Something that I thought did work earlier in the expansion was that, and I want to say late December or early January, they did a, hey, this is what you guys can look forward to in the next few months blog, and they mentioned things like, Blackrock Foundry testing and the selfie camera and garrison improvements and Twitter integration that people could look forward to before any of the data mining or interview process started. And I thought that was a good way of telling players what they could expect in the near future to avoid all that confusion, and it was an official blog that was, you know, right on their homepage. So I like that technique, and I think that they could be doing something like this for the next few months, being like, hey, heads up, there's flying, and you might see some other things, and I don't know. I think that would have been a better approach.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think that when things are posted on Blizzard blogs, or even if it's a World of Warcraft tweet or Facebook post, I feel like, you know, it's coming from a unified place. Whereas when you're getting these huge pieces of like bombshell information from interviews, even the flying thing, when they originally had announced no flying, I feel like an interview was a very odd place to make that announcement. Especially since it was like Memorial Day weekend, when like people weren't going to see it as much. It just felt a little like not direct to the community. And I don't think that's the intention. I don't think anybody's we're trying to hide things. If anything, I almost think it's trying to like involve the community more. But I feel like it would have been more beneficial for all parties involved for them to have made the announcement and then done the interviews afterwards, so that people could gather
the follow-ups,
community questions like, why this, why that, what about this, how about that, and get clarification, rather than making the announcement and then people just being stunned, and then there was like this radio silence.
It's definitely something they have to sort out between interviews and figuring out Twitter with Warcraft devs and how active to be on that, and
so
how to present communication front.
Bringing it back to where we started, I think that we probably should try to refrain from rioting. And that it doesn't. They also, like you said, they use words like planned and probably, so it really could just be it could all be smoke and mirrors. Or maybe we're going to get an expansion announcement, because if it's not smoke and mirrors, and if this is really the last content patch, we should be finding out about an expansion very soon. Very, very, very soon. And like, this is just something I've heard a lot of people say, and I feel like it's a fair point to make, is that if expansions are going to be 2 patches, they shouldn't be the same price as expansions that were 5 patches. That's kind of hard to get half the amount of content for the same price, especially considering you're already paying like a subscription fee and stuff. Like, I have no problem with smaller expansions, but it's not fair to ask people to pay $6.50 or $60, whatever it is. I always buy the collector's edition, but see, I sit here and complain, and I'm so full of crap. I'll still buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the argument would be that, oh, you get this free boost to whatever it's called, 90. But I see your point that there's less stuff you're getting on the box.
Yeah, every few years. And this is just things that I see people saying, and I hate when people say they feel like they aren't heard, because I feel like people